Thou shalt not play the forbidden riff. Behind the forbidden riff, Deep Purple's Smoke on the Water. Hi, I'm Carl Baldassarre, and today we're going to look at the song Smoke on the Water and dig in behind the forbidden riff by Ritchie Blackmore. This band released this song in their Mach 2 version of Deep Purple, which featured Ian Gillan, Ian Pace, Roger Glover, Ritchie Blackmore, and John Lord. It was a great version of Deep Purple, and they really came together as a band with this album, Machine Head. And this song really was the apex of that album, if not their career, when it came to really memorable riffs. And of note, it's the 50th anniversary of the release of that album. It was released on March 25th, 1972. So here we are in March 2022. So happy 50th anniversary to Deep Purple and Smoke on the Water. Let's dig in. In this episode, we're going to review the riff, but we're going to look at the ancient history of the sound of that riff, which really is made up of perfect fourths and perfect fifths. We're going to talk about Ritchie's love affair of that sound and of those figures, and we're going to give a lot of examples of him using that in song creation. We're going to look at the song in terms of the shifting key modalities. We're going to talk about the incredible two-chord chorus and how it really sets off from the rest of the song. And then finally, we're going to look at this amazing golden ratio moment during the guitar solo. It's really mind-blowing. Now a word about the riff. Every guitar player knows this riff. Every music store hates this riff, but the reality is things wind up being overplayed because people wanted to hear them. It's so great, it got played a lot, people wanted to play it, and eventually it's been heard so many times that people don't want to hear it anymore, especially from struggling young guitarists in a music store. But aside from that, it's an epic construction of riff, and I want to break it down for you here. So basically, the riff has three components to it. The first component is the second component, and then the third component. Now that little triumvirate of figures creates one unit of the riff, and that occurs 16 times throughout the song. So this thing really is a riff sandwich with a song thrown in the middle of it. Now the riff is made up of perfect fourths that are plucked on the guitar, but actually the history of where those sounds came from, perfect fourths and perfect fifths, is what I want to actually dig into here. In fact, if I wrote out that perfect fourth figure and showed it to a classical musician who was deep in classical music and not really familiar with rock music, they might look at that figure and just as easily think it was from the 1100s, not the 1970s. And let me show you why. If I were to play you this figure, that might conjure the notion of something very old to you, and in fact it is. It's really the formation of a Gregorian chant, and that sound actually has a name for it in classical music. It's called an organum. And what's happening there are two parallel melodic lines moving together. So we had the low line, and then the upper voice in parallel, in fourths. And then if we put that together, and there you have it. You have the monks singing Gregorian chants in the abbey, but not when you put the guitar in Ritchie Blackmore's hands. You get now in the ancient times, these sounds were declaratory sounds. They were a cue that something epic was going to happen. In fact, they were ceremonial sounds, and they came out of the church. And in more modern classical music, all the way up to Beethoven, it would be a prelude to something magnificent. And what's more magnificent than Beethoven's Ninth Symphony? Let's listen to the opening phrases and the use of fourths and fifths in that phrase. doesn't get any more epic than that, and that is what I was saying, that the power that's conveyed in the openness of the sounds, quintals and quartals or perfect fifths. And you know, Ritchie Blackmore certainly loved Beethoven. He loved all ancient music. He loved Renaissance music. It really follows the arc of his career, going from Deep Purple to Rainbow to Blackmore's Night. And it's just such a Ritchie Blackmore thing, but it really is rather timeless. Now these perfect fourths, these open fourths and fifths, are really natural for the guitar because the guitar is tuned in fourths, and Ritchie Blackmore's a guitar player. So when you look at the way it lays out on the guitar, the sound of fourths and the sound of fifths, perfect fifths, they're just natural for the guitar, and very natural for Ritchie Blackmore to have that under his fingers. So to show these perfect fourths in action, I'm going to play you some great riffs from Ritchie Blackmore just to show you how he's using perfect fourths and fifths throughout his career. We have the great Forbidden Riff. And we have this one. We have this one. The great Burn riff. All those perfect fourths are so cool. And we have this one. The great Highway Star riff. There's tons of examples of that in Ritchie Blackmore's career, but that's just a handful of those great perfect fourths in his songwriting. Now there's some other considerations to take with respect to this song beyond the riff, and that is, what key signature are we in here? The key signature shows is B flat, but there's shifting tonalities. For example, there's definitely a G minor sensibility to it. There's also a G pentatonic. There's a G pentatonic blues scale. There's a bit of G Dorian. And then there's an F major moment, which is really at the apex of the song during the guitar solo, and we have this perfect 5-to-1 cadence. And so for a moment we're in F major. So all of this sort of shifting tonality is really due to the nature of the undefined world of the pentatonic universe in which this song lives. Now the overall structure of the song, it's very simple. It's a verse, chorus, the bridge with the guitar solo, and then another verse, chorus, and we have riffs at the front end and a riff coda at the back end, and that's it. So it's a very basically constructed song, but that doesn't undermine the fact that it's very, very potent. And I have to give a shout out to the bass player Roger Glover, because we all talk about the riff of this song or this great chorus in the song or the great guitar solo, but he contributed one of the best hooks in the song, and it's fantastic, and it is this riff. Coming up. That chromatic bass line is the ignition to the riff engine of the song. And it's really funny how the smallest little thing can become a great hook. So just a reminder to all songwriters, look for those little hooks to connect things together. They're very powerful. So the verse is very simple. It's a 2-chord verse with kind of Ritchie doing octaves. Back to G, so we're going from G to F. But the melody for that also reinforces the G pentatonic universe that we're in. It's actually kind of he's singing a pentatonic blues lick. You know, we all came out to Montreux on the Lake Geneva shoreline, so it's something like this. Which is just a blues pentatonic like I showed you before. So the melody is kind of singing this G blues pentatonic riff over those 2 chords, so it's pretty basic but really cool, works appropriately for the song. Now let's get to the chorus, because that's where really some magic happens here. Now we get to the chorus, and this is a brilliant two-chord event. It has such impact because of the tonality of the two chords. So this two-chord event really sets itself apart from the rest of the song because we have major triads here. We've been in kind of a perfect fourth world without any thirds declared, so we don't know our quality of major or minor. But then all of a sudden, when we really want to talk about what the song is about, the words say smoke on the water, we get smoke with a C major, and then we get on the water and A flat major. And those two kind of step out of the framework of the minor kind of tonality, and those two chords hold together in a really cool way because they share a common tone, which is C. And then, so the two chords have a common tone. And the other cool thing that's happening there is that we have this shifting of the E note. In the C chord, we have an E natural. And then when we go to the A flat chord, we get this half step move. Why is that important? Because it really is tied to some of the other half step moves that are going on. Remember, the riff is, there's a half step move right there. And then on the chorus, we have the, so we have the A flat dropping to G. So we have these kind of parallel and coherent half step moves. We have the, and those really sort of subliminally kind of hold it all together. So the chorus is super, super cool because it does this sort of stepping out of the perfect fourth modality. One other thing I forgot to mention on the sound of the chorus, the other thing that's happening is that we have what's called a tertian movement, or a movement by thirds. Tertiary is a word for three. And this is a really beloved sound by composers, especially those that are doing epic film scores like Star Wars and what have you. And we have a tertian movement here because we have a C going to an A flat. And that move is a very tertian sound. Now, I've talked about the golden ratio, the golden section in some of my other videos. Please check them out because I do an explanation of it there, but I'll do a brief summary of it here. So a golden section or a golden ratio is something that exists out in the universe. It's a mathematical proportion. It also exists in the human body, but it's been used in architecture, in art, in music, in you name it, it's in there. So a golden section is simply 61.8% of the total duration of something, whether it's time or length or what have you. And for example, in my body, I have golden sections like this finger. If I take the tip joint of my little finger as a percentage of the total length, these two joints are 61.8%, and so on and so forth through my hand. In my arm, if I go from my elbow to the tip of my finger, this is 61.8% of the length of my total arm, and it goes throughout your body. In fact, Da Vinci did the famous Vitruvian Man picture. We'll flash that up on the screen, and that was to sort of analyze the different golden ratio, golden sections in the human body. And it actually can be used in music because it doesn't have to be distance or length, it could be time. So this song is 5 minutes and 40 seconds long. And at 3 minutes and 21 seconds, you have the golden moment. And if you look at what happens at the golden moment, it's during the guitar solo. What's really, really cool about this, the chords in the background, as I mentioned earlier, there's a brief shift to an F major modality during the guitar solo where you have a C major going to an F major, a 5-to-1 cadence. And that's happening during the guitar solo when Ritchie Blackmore gets to the high G. Let me give you just a quick kind of contextual sort of performance of the guitar solo at that moment. So during that guitar solo, when Ritchie gets to the highest note of his solo, which is the G, when he gets to that G, At that very moment, we're 210 seconds into a 340-second song. And if you do the math, this will blow your mind. It's exactly 61.8% of the length of the song. Bang on to the golden ratio. So incredible. The power of a golden ratio, and a golden section, as I call it, is the fact that our body longs for this proportion. And in music, it happens all the time. Composers don't know they're doing it, but they do it. And you will absolutely notice it, that there's just a point in a song where something needs to happen, and it'll happen. If you go back and look, good chance it's happening at the golden section. And Smoke on the Water, Deep Purple, is one of the only ones I've ever heard, apart from classical music, where the golden section is hit to the decimal point. It is absolutely stunning. Now, in closing, I want to give you a little historical context about this song and this album, specifically as it relates to Smoke on the Water. The band on December 4th, 1971 was in Switzerland, and they were attending a Frank Zappa concert. And as you know, as the lyrics tell you, some stupid with a flare gun shot 2 rounds into the ceiling of the concert hall at this casino and burned the place to the ground. Now, fortunately, nobody got hurt. Everybody got out. But that story gave rise to this song. And the band needed one more song to complete the album they were about to record. So on December 4th, they had this event. Roger Glover happened to come up with the phrase "smoke on the water" when he saw the smoke cloud of the fire descending, kind of landing ominously on Lake Geneva. And Ian Gillan started writing words. And Ritchie Blackmore had this riff. So they went in the studio 2 days later, December 6th, 1971. And in 2 weeks, they recorded not only this song, but the entire album of Machine Head. Oh, it was a different time when bands were putting music together like that. And within 2 weeks, they had the album, and the album was released on March 25th, 1972. And here we are, 50 years later, talking about this great song. Certainly stands the test of time. One other fun fact for you. The #1 song on the Billboard charts on March 25th, 1972 was the acoustic song by the band America called "A Horse with No Name." What shocking bedfellows we have with that song, and then all of a sudden, Smoke on the Water. Amazing. I'm Carl Baldassarre. Thank you for watching. I want to thank all my new subscribers. I really appreciate you joining on. Please like, subscribe, and leave me comments. Give me some ideas as to what you thought about this or any other episodes you'd like me to do. Happy to look at all those. Thank you very much. Let me have another shot of vodka here. Hold on. That chromatic climb up. Here we go. Come on now. All right. Stop it. Here we go. All right, stop yourself, Billy. Here we are. You missed my last baton.
You pointed at me.
I'm sorry. Let's do it again. All right, now that we got that sorted, here we go. All right. More vodka. Star Wars and what have you.